you see him walking off the field. He's got to be a very happy young man. Cubs win is right.
Here are the totals from the first game.
All right, we'll have the totals and the highlights for you following this message.
Goodyear is rolling.
Now watch what happens. Lonnie Smith goes in, but he never hits the dirt. He crosses the bag, does a roll block against Sandberg, and that's when Frank Pulley said there was obstruction. He called the double play. The man went back to third base. The score stayed tied at 1-1. The Cubs later put 7 big ones on the board to pull away from the Cardinals. It was an exciting game for Cub fans, and a gentleman who isn't too excited about that outcome is our guest today, Bruce Sutter. Bruce, one of the things you got to be happy with is
ball deep short to Smith. A long throw pulled the first baseman Dave Green off the bag, and so the Cubs have a base runner right off the bat. No pun intended.
Error on Ozzie Smith. The throw pulled him off the bag, and he's going to chalk up an E.
Who's this handsome young fellow over here?
We got to do something about his good looks, you know.
Well,
we don't worry about his talent, but he is handsome.
Well, wait a minute. Now that we've waved that cigar smoke out of the way. Oh, that's Steve Stone.
I know you don't mind cigars, Jack.
All right, the batter now is, of course, Sandberg. Throw to first in an effort to either get him or hold him close or scare him or send him a message or something, because Dernier, of course, is one of the outstanding base stealers in the National League this year. What's he got? About 44, hasn't he, Harry?
44 is right.
There it is again. Man on base. Nobody out. First inning. Lonnie Smith in left. Willie McGee in center. Andy Van Slyke in right. Terry Pendleton at third. Ozzie Smith at short. Bill Lyons at second. Dave Green at first. The battery, Andahar and Porter. Andahar trying for that 20th win of the year. He's 20. Bad throw to first, and watch Dernier make second on this one. It is safe at second base. All right.
Not a way to get him started.
That has to be a throwing error, I'm sure.
On Andahar, you know his temperament, Jack. He's liable to blow sky high.
Yes, he's trying to at the same time for that 20th win of the year today, and he, of course, is still, I suppose, very much in the running, wouldn't you say, Steve, for the Cy Young Award?
He's certainly going to be
You've
considered,
heard of the Cy Young Award, Steve.
I think it's going to be between Sutcliffe and Gooden. I think Sutcliffe has got it wrapped up, but Andujar's got to be a candidate.
All right, this gives Sandberg a chance now to bring a man in from second base with just a good old-fashioned base hit. 1 for 4 today for Ryan, hitting .314 as he stands in the batter's box. Vukovic coaching at first, and Don Zimmer over at third. Plate umpire is Joe West. Frank Pulley at first, Doug Harvey at second, Jerry Crawford at third. And we'll get on the batting orders when we get a little opportunity here. Called strike. Now, as I understand it, Andahar throws a fastball, a curve, a slider, and a change.
He's mixing them up more this year. When he had his problems last year, he threw a lot of fastballs up. He tried to challenge everybody, but now he's become a little bit of a trickster. Still has the good fastball, but he uses the corners a lot more.
Sidearm. Pretty fast ball. Still strike 2 on the foul.
Jack, I think he also has a pitch that they call a super sinker. Sometimes it's got a little something on the side of it.
That's his fastball.
Yeah, right.
Outfield playing him just about straight away, and of course respectfully deep. 414 to the wall in center field here. Down the left field side 330, down the right field side 330. Good old Busch Stadium. This is a very, very beautiful ballpark. One of the outstanding baseball palaces, I think, in the country. And I think I'm right about this, Harry, and nobody knows St. Louis better than you. This really vitalized the downtown area of this city, didn't it?
Well, that's what it was meant to do, whether it has or not. I know there are a number of new buildings and weren't here before, but after 5 o'clock at night, Jack, you could shoot a cannon through the downtown streets. It's a mass exodus for the suburbs.
I'll tell you what. You couldn't have shot a cannon and not hit anybody the last couple of days, especially if you hit it near one of the bars, because they're full of Cub fans down here.
I tell you, if there's 50,000 people here, and I imagine there are, why 30,000 of them must be Cub fans. But you know, the Cardinal fans are really, with all the geographic rivalry, they really want to see the Cubs win, even though just because they themselves can't win.
I think there's something to that. The ones I've talked to, at least. Ball 1, strike 2 to the batter. And there is a called third strike. he fooled him, didn't he, Steve?
He left him standing there with that sidearm curveball. It froze Sandberg for an instant before Ryan.
Now, Andahar at least claims to be playing with pain, doesn't he? Got that sore foot or sore ankle or something, and but he says, I've played with pain before. Runner on third is safe.
Hey!
Bobby Dernier has just stolen third base.
Hey!
All right. You know what that does for us now? Fly ball, infield out, base hit. A lot of things could score a run and give the Cubs the lead.
Nice pick by Terry Pendleton. Andujar forgot about Dernier, and Dernier made him pay. That was almost the third error of the inning, Jack.
One of the things the Cubs want to be sure to do in this one, based on the record this year, is score first. Because the Cardinals, are you ready for this? In games where they have scored first are 53 and 17. Fly ball deep to left. Back, back, back. Hey, hey! Attaboy, Sarge! 2 runs in for the Cubs. Hey, hey!
Holy cow! Boy, what a day the Sarges had. 5 RBIs already today.
Wise move by Jim Fry, inserting Henry Cotto for Matthews, saving some of his power and strength for the second game. And Matthews takes one way back. Home run number 14. RBIs number 80 and 81.
All right, here's Durham. You know, the last year that I worked baseball, 1981, that short strike and strike shortened season, Harry and Steve, we didn't exactly overwork the expression hey hey on Cub homers. As a matter of fact, the joke in the booth was that it got to the place where when it did happen, I needed an idiot card. Ground ball out to second. Bill Lyons, the rookie, up with it. Perfect throw to first. Out number 2.
Don't give me that stuff, Brick. Now I know why I didn't run into you in your usual haunts in St. Louis last night. You're back in your sweet practicing for today.
Oh, listen, I've been practicing for today for about 45 years.
Where were you in 45? Were you in the service?
1945 was the year I picked to do the White Sox exclusively.
Oh, another one of the many great judgments you've made.
Yeah, another real great call. Here's Moreland. There's a ground ball. Bouncing out and out Ozzie Smith. Perfect throw, and that takes care of that. But the Cubs get 2. 2 runs, 1 hit. An error, nobody left. Make that 2 errors. 2 runs, 1 hit, 2 errors, nobody left. This takes us now to the Cardinal half of the first. McGee will lead off. Cubs 2, Cardinals 0.
It will be the very heart of their batting order against Lee Smith. Terry Pendleton, Andy Van Slyke, and Lonnie Smith, and if anybody gets on, Darrell Porter. Don't look now, but there's a little thunder coming up.
Lee Smith had such a fine 8th inning that he'd like to duplicate it right here. That would do a lot for his confidence, and Jim Fry knows he wants to have a confident Lee Smith going into postseason play.
Here's Pendleton 0 for 3 in this game and 0 for 7 for the day. Now Lee Smith's first pitch. Swung and he missed. Boy, this kid gets a good cut every time up there.
Nothing bashful about him. He just goes up there swinging hard. And he's got good speed to go along with that quality bat. He doesn't have enormous power. He's a line drive hitter.
Nobody on, nobody out, the pitch. Swung and he missed. Lee Smith going for save number 33. Dennis Eckersley's game to win would give him his 9th victory of the season. And you just can't say enough about the caliber of consistent pitching that Dennis Eckersley has provided every single start in his rotation. He could have 13 or 14 victories easily. A number of times he is left with a lead only to have the relief fail. Now to wind up the pitch. Fly ball, left field, Cotto waiting, and he's got it. 1 out.
You know, Harry, a lot of people were talking as the Cubs went through this losing streak of 5 games. They were talking about the Cubs having to back in. Well, I think this doubleheader will put to rest any of that back in talk. They went out there today and just plain took it away from the Cardinals.
And polishing off a Cardinal ball club that's been red hot of late. Be a toss-up between them and the Pirates. Here's Van Slyke. Strike call. And they knocked off the Pirates as consistently as the Pirates beat us in Chicago last week.
Well, they were 14-7 for September coming into today.
He swings and he misses. 4 in a row, retired by Lee Smith. 1 out, we're in the 9th. Into the dirt. Remember now, a victory reduces the magic number to 1. It means the very worst that the Cubs could get would be a tie, which would necessitate a playoff. And they have a whole week to win one in, or the Mets to lose one in. Now, this is about as secure as you can be without mathematically having won it. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The pitch to Van Slyke. Bouncing ball to Durham. Big hop, he takes it. 2 gone. Leon Durham beat Van Slyke to the bag. Here's Lonnie Smith, and the Cub fans are on their feet.
A lot of the crowd of 46,000 plus is left, but the ones that are here are mostly Cub fans.
They're waiting for their victory. Double victory. There you see Jim Fry. On the Cubs final tonight will feature with Dallas Green, Don Zimmer, the third base coach. Listen to this crowd. You think there aren't a lot of Cub fans here? Lonnie Smith, the batter. Cubs lead by 2. Line drive. Cubs win. Cubs win the doubleheader. Cubs win the doubleheader. Holy cow. They are assured of no worse than a tie. Their magic number is 1 as Lonnie Smith lined to the Bull Durham, who made a tumbling catch. Look at the high five. There's Jim Fry. Let's just watch the picture for a moment. Look at Fry. He's hugging everybody. Why not? What a beautiful afternoon. With a 5-game losing streak coming in, the Cubs leave with a 2-game winning streak going out. And they have done all but clinch this title. The very worst they can get's a tie. They have all week to win one of their own or to have the Mets lose one of their own. So that's how secure we are. Holy cow, what a day. We'll be back with the totals in a moment. Number 1, that means that the very worst they can get is a tie, which would necessitate a playoff. Well, you know, with a week of baseball, somebody's going to win one or lose one. But I like what you said earlier, Steve. They didn't back into this, Mother, because coming into this doubleheader against a red-hot St. Louis Cardinal ball club, which had extended their losing streak to 5 in a row, they knew they were in trouble. And that's why I want to re-emphasize once again the performance of Steve Trout, because the opening game of the doubleheader here today was the big game.
Absolutely. And you know, Harry, you've made the point, and it's very well taken. It's too bad the Cubs couldn't have won it before 50,000 instead of maybe tomorrow before 5,000. But let me tell you something. There are going to be some Cub fans in Pittsburgh tomorrow. If they win it, they'll make it sound like 50,000.
And Harry, what I like about this game, outside of the fact that they won 2 and reduced their magic number to 1, a great effort by Lee Smith. And they need the big guy to have confidence, and Lee Smith is going to have confidence now. He faced 6 men in 2 innings, recorded his 33rd save. More importantly than that, he threw the ball very well here this afternoon.
You know, another thing I liked about the ball club, because I think it comes under the general outline and the heading of the type of character they've displayed all year long. You know, after extending their losing streak to 5 in a row, they came out here in this doubleheader today, running the bases with gay abandon, doing things, attempting things, which was a sign of a team that's loose. They weren't losing because they were tight. They were just losing because they weren't getting the hits at the right time.
Harry, you know what Jim told me yesterday in front of that rain out? He said the night before, when they lost the game 8-0, he said even during that entire game, that bench was as alive and loose as it has been all year. They were not tight at all.
I think you saw it early in the first game, Harry, and I think we both mentioned it. This was an aggressive club that came out there today. They went out to take the games away, and they took both of them away from the Cardinals. The Cardinals were the hottest team in the league in September. They didn't show it today. The Cubs look like what they are, the best team in the East.
Yes, sir, and I don't think it's ever been repeated enough. The Cubs are where they are because they beat a very worthy adversary, and I say that with all the genuine feeling I possibly can, because you've got to give those Mets a lot of credit. They've hung in there, and they've made the Cubs go out and win it. But the Cubs are where they are because they beat the Mets head-to-head battle 12 out of 18. And if that isn't a sign of a superior ball club, I don't know what is.
Harry, I just want to step out of this picture for 1 minute because there's two men who should share this, and it's you and Jack Brickhouse.
Oh, Stevie. Well, I want to say this much, Harry. I think it's going to be only justice that the Cubs win this thing at Pittsburgh, where after what Pittsburgh did to them at Wrigley Field, and since Pittsburgh is the only team in the whole National League with a season's edge on the Cubs.
All right, Jack, this is going to be one of your penances. We're going to force you to go to Pittsburgh to clinch the pennant.
Tell you the truth, Harry, I really appreciate yours and Arnie's and WGN Television's and Steve's and Milo's and Jack Rosenberg's invitation to join you, because you guys know what something like this means to me, and I really appreciate it.
You're welcome here with open arms every time.
I love you.
See you later.
Right.
All right, quickly the totals. 4 runs, 6 hits, no errors for the Chicago Cubs. The winner is Dennis Eckersley, 9-8. The save goes to Lee Smith, his 33rd of the year. For the St. Louis Cardinals, 2 runs, 6 hits, 3 errors. Their loser is Joaquin Andahar, who for the 4th time this year has failed in his quest for his 20th victory. The Cubs, behind Steve Trout, won the first game 8-1. So the magic number is down to 1. They're assured of no worse than a tie. You can get the World Series and a playoff game tickets out, Jim thinks, back there in Chicago, because it's all come home to roost. The playoffs will open October the 2nd at Wrigley Field in Chicago, featuring the San Diego Padres against our Chicago Cubs. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the telecast. A memorable day indeed in Chicago baseball history. So with Jack Brickhouse and Steve Stone, I'm Harry Carey. Repeating the final score, the Cubs sweep the doubleheader 8-1 and 4-2. And you know now, don't you, that this bud truly is for you. So long, everybody.
Our participating advertisers in Cubs baseball were Bud Light. The best has a taste all its own, satisfying.
The pennant celebration is oh so close, with the magic number for the Chicago Cubs now down to 1. The Cubs played magnificent ball today in a sweeping of a doubleheader against the Cardinals in St. Louis, reducing the magic number by 2. Bob Hillman is here with some exciting highlights from today's game.
I'll tell you, the excitement really is unbearable, Bob. It's getting very exciting. It's great, absolutely. And the star of today's games had to be the Sarge, Gary Matthews. We'll start with game 1. Cubs get 6 runs in the 4th inning. And it's the blow by Gary Matthews right here. A bases-loaded double scoring 3 runs that gives the Cubs a 4-1 lead at this point in the ball game, and the final in game 1, 8-1, favor of the Cubs as Trout pitched magnificently. Now in game 2, 1st inning, with our own Jack Brickhouse up in the booth, Gary Matthews hits a 2-run homer. Jack Brickhouse later. The final in the second game was 4-2, and we can clinch it all in Pittsburgh tomorrow night. Game will be on WGN, of course, and you'll actually hear Jack Brickhouse call Gary Matthews' home run later in the newscast in the sports segment. And don't forget, much, much more with the Cubs at 10:30 on Cubs Final. We got it all, as the Cubs will clinch tomorrow. No doubt about it.
Oh, it sounds just great. I know. I was excited watching them at home. Can you just imagine what fans must have been like in a bar somewhere?
Absolutely right.
Apart,
I wouldn't know about the bar, but anyway, talk to any Cubs fan and he or she will tell you tomorrow's the day. The jubilation is already starting to float through the air.
Line drive. Cubs win. Cubs win the doubleheader. Cubs win the doubleheader. Holy cow.
So we have to wait just a little longer. But after 39 years, what the heck? Another day or so is nothing, unless you're waiting to see if you'll get a couple of tickets in the Great Cub Lottery. 249 bags full of more than 2 million pleas for the prized cardboard. 17,500 drawn at random, each to get 2 tickets. The winners to be notified by telephone or by mail.
We're asking them to come down to the ballpark. They will pick up their winning tickets at the ballpark. Of course, they're going to have proper identification that'll verify in conjunction with their winning lottery drawing. Some people that live a great distance, and again, we had representation from all across the United States, people that won from a great distance, or some people that won for World Series games like on October 13th or 14th. We are asking them to do this process by mail, to send us a check. We will send them the tickets back.
And what are those winners saying when they're called?
Most of them is incredulous surprise. I can't believe it's me. We get screams into the phone, and we've had the opposite reaction. We've had reactions, I don't believe it. It's a joke. It's a fraud. This is not true. You're not calling me. We've had people hang up on us, believe it or not.
Well, the Let It All Hang Out fans at the Ultimate Sports Bar were believing it and toasting every Cub run, usually 3 or 4 times. I was one of the few who could remember the last big finish for the Cubs back in '45, but everybody here claimed to be long-time Cubs rooters, and the pennants were already hanging from the rafters and the magic number charts were going into a countdown mode. But the Mets had won, and we hadn't taken it all yet. I mean, it's a tough life, sitting here hour after hour, getting frustrated, watching the Cubs almost get there, but not quite.
I've been waiting for a long time. You know, these people have been hassling me. The Cubs aren't going to do it. I made all kinds of bet with my friends. They said the White Sox were going to do it. Here the Cubs are, you know.
Tomorrow's going to be the day for sure.
Oh, we're definitely going to make it.
Looks like they were getting a little more than just frustrated. Stay with us. Bob Hillman will have all the highlights from today's doubleheader later in our newscast. Robert?
How many of those mailbags belong to you for Cup tickets? I know a lot of them did for most of us. There is other news, though, tonight. State's Attorney Richard Daley says consumers should...
Tell you what, the Cubs were really loose today, Larry. Yeah, they look great, as we talked about.
Absolutely.
Oh, and then they look great? All right, here's our trivia question for you tonight. Jim Brown, Walter Payton, and Franco Harris are 1, 2, 3 on the all-time NFL rushing list. Who is number 4? Ladies and gentlemen, hey, bring out the champagne, friends. It's all but over. We can clinch this whole thing tomorrow with a victory in Pittsburgh, as we won a doubleheader in St. Louis today, so whip out the champagne. In Game 1, that's where we start. The Cubs get 6 runs in the 4th inning to break this whole thing open.
Fly ball, right center, pretty well hit. It'll be in and put to Tweener, up against the wall. Boa scores, Dernier scores, Sandberg will score. It's a 3-run double for the Sards.
Later, Moreland made it 5-1, and then Ron Say gets in on the hit parade with his booming double to left center field. 2 Cubs are going to come around to score. That makes the score 7-1, favor of the Cubs. 8, no stopping us now. No stopping Steve Trout, a complete game victory. Cubs end their 5-game losing streak. They win the first game, 8-1. Now in Game 2, a very familiar voice came to the WGN broadcast booth. Jack Brickhouse calls Gary Matthews.
Fly ball deep to left. Back, back, back. Hey! Atta boy, Sarge. 2 runs in for the Cubs. Hey, hey!
Yeah, well, that was Harry, all right? That made it 2-0. In the fourth inning, Larry Boa, who's really been hitting well left-handed lately with a single to right center field. Say scores 3-0. In the eighth inning, watch this, Sandberg with an infield hit. But St. Louis can't get their act together, and Dernier says, what the heck, I'm going to come around to score. The final was 4-2 as Lee Smith preserved the win for Mr. Dennis Eckersley.
Lead by 2. Line drive. Cubs win. Cubs win the doubleheader. Cubs win the doubleheader. Holy cow. They are assured of no worse than a tie. Their magic number is 1 as Lonnie Smith lined to the Bull Durham, who made a tumbling catch. Look at the high five.
Actually, during the rain delay, Gary Maddox had called me up yesterday, and he says, well, it seems like you guys are a little bit nervous. He told me that, you know, you've done it before. He says, go out there and just do it yourself. And today I ended up getting 2 game winners, and he's in the hospital right now with a back operation. I know he's just as happy as I am, and so be it. I'm glad about it.
Well, the Mets prevented the Cubs from winning it all today, and give them credit. They did what they had to do this weekend. They swept the Montreal Expos to get 2 in the 5th inning to put it away. Kelvin Chapman. Come on, Dwight. Come on home. What are you waiting for? Roy Johnson hasn't got his act together. 3-1 at this point. Everything going right for the Mets. Look at this one. Whoops. Passed ball. Another run comes in. That makes it 4-1. And once again, Dwight Gooden was plenty good. He pitched 8 innings, struck out only 9 this time. Leads the majors in strikeouts with 276. The final, doggone it. You're too good, Gooden. 6-1 Mets. All right, tight race in the American League West. Oakland 5.